Hello, I'm Marc Wilson. I'm here in Allegany State Park, which is located in western New York. Bradford, Pennsylvania is just on the other side of the state line. I'm here today to do some trout fishing, but also to resume a personal quest to photograph a live timber rattlesnake in the wild, preferably on this side of the state line. During my lifetime, there has been reports of rare rattlesnake encounters here in the park. Last year a camper was bitten somewhere in this general area. This video will also showcase the park, which is a very scenic and beautiful place. We're going to start out here today at the Thunder Rocks.
The Thunder Rocks aren't quite as famous as Rock City Park. These rocks aren't nearly as massive or impressive to walk through and look at as the formations found in Rock City. Although they are only a fraction of the size, it's still a scenic and interesting place to visit. Like Rock City, there are a lot of birds and chipmunks for rattlesnakes to prey upon. I noticed that there are a lot of old fallen logs lying around the outer perimeter, which are prime rattlesnake hunting grounds. There are a lot of nooks and crannies here for any snake to quickly disappear into. There are a few openings that could potentially lead to an underground chamber to serve as a den for hibernation. Many of the rocks here do get enough direct exposure to the sun to warm them enough to give snakes a place to bask. There is some human activity here, but substantially less than in Rock City Park, which is really convenient to get to off of a main road. The road to get here is unpaved, rough, and really out of the way. In theory, this place should be a timber rattlesnake haven. I suspect that my search has gotten a little warmer. Along the way, some logs and rocks were flipped over to see if any snakes were coiled up underneath them. The wrecking bar is to avoid sticking my fingers underneath them and risk getting bitten. Many salamanders and newts were found, but no snakes. At least not in the Thunder Rocks, that is. Most of the time, these rocks and logs were laid back down as they were found. A blue-spotted salamander was found underneath the second rock. It was just one out of about a half a dozen found on the day. Here's a closer look at it.
After looking around at the Thunder Rocks and not finding any rattlesnakes, the search will continue on Black Snake Mountain Trail. This is a 3-mile-long loop that is located due south of Science Lake and follows the Pennsylvania state line for a short distance. This trail is easily accessible directly off of Allegany State Park, road number 3 near Science Lake.
On the way to Black Snake Mountain Trail, a stop was made to check out this rocky roadside embankment along Allegany State Park Road number 2. Red House Brook can be seen flowing below. This area is encountered each summer when trout fishing in the stream. It's a fairly small area, but one that does get some direct sunlight. I was hoping to see a northern water snake or a garter snake basking here. Although they aren't the species that's being sought, a rule of thumb is that where one species of snake can be found, others usually will be too. We're going in. Black Snake Mountain Trail was chosen because it follows the Pennsylvania state line. I've never walked this trail before and don't know what to expect. Hopefully there will be some open rocky areas along a hillside where snakes can be found basking. The next 5 or 6 minutes of video will outline the hike. It's a sunny day in the upper 80s, but you wouldn't know it once under the canopy of this forest. The temperature is really cool here. It's almost as if the woods have been air conditioned. The smell of the outdoors is refreshing and the air is really easy to breathe deeply into the lungs. A short walk into the hike and a small stream was encountered and had to be crossed. The trail has been fairly flat and easy to walk so far. In the path ahead, some logs and rocks were encountered. A stop was made to flip some of them over. Unfortunately, no snakes were found, so the hike continued forward and the same small stream was eventually re-encountered and once again it needed to be crossed. The trail is well marked by the small blue circular markers seen nailed to many of the trees along it. As long as you follow the markers and stay on the main trail, there's minimal risk of getting lost. At this point, the slope of the trail started to ascend for the first time. About 10 minutes has passed since this climb was started. The level of difficulty has been fairly moderate. The hill isn't as steep as it looks in the video. The halfway point of the trail is being neared. Rattlesnakes like hiding in hollowed out logs. The knocking with the wrecking bar was to see if anything came out before rolling it over. I believe this marker is the trail's halfway point. This landmark isn't featured on the Allegany State Park map, but it officially marks the New York and Pennsylvania state line. The slope of the trail leveled off just before getting here. And so we continue forward once again. There's a small spring flowing under the trail at this point. A flat rock visible from the trail was stood upon to look at the spring when this was discovered. It's obviously man-made. A guess would be that it was built by the Civilian Conservation Corps during the Great Depression. There are a lot of cool things here in the park to see. Many of them just require a willingness to walk and to explore. There is a rocky area ahead. So far, that rocky open hillside with a lot of exposure to the sun that's been hoped for hasn't been encountered. After a close inspection of these rocks, no snakes were noticed. They're too big to flip over and aren't overly exposed to the sun. I didn't expect to find any here. These are more rocks along the same embankment. There are plenty of hiding places in them. There quite possibly may be some snakes here, but I'm not going to risk playing around in those without snake-proof chaps. At this point, about 2/3 of the trail has been navigated. The trail has remained fairly flat and easy to walk. There's a small ravine ahead and the trail turns to the north. The open rocky area that was hoped for has finally been encountered. It's not as big an area as hoped for, but still well worth investigating. Sadly, the quest has struck out again. No snakes were found, so the trail continues forward. The trail is nearing its end as it begins to descend back down to its starting point. Snake Mountain Trail is just one of roughly 18 hiking trails available in Allegany State Park.
After failing to find any rattlesnakes on Black Snake Mountain Trail, the search will continue off of Wolf Run Road, which is in the Quaker area. That's an area of the state park where there is a lot less human activity, and it's also in much closer proximity to the Kinzua Dam, which is located on the other side of the Pennsylvania state line. That's a general area where rattlesnakes are more commonly found. Last weekend, I was talking to an old-timer who has seen them directly off of Wolf Run Road in the past, but that was quite some time ago.
Upon arriving at Wolf Run Road, this surprise was encountered. I didn't expect it to be gated off. Wolf Run wasn't quite what was expected. What was anticipated was a stream comparable to Red House Brook, Quaker Run, Stoddard Creek, or McIntosh Brook. This is more like a flooded ditch than a stream. Since the trip was already made to get here, it was time to get out and walk. The unpaved road was expected. As the road was walked in the blistering sun, there was high hopes that one could be found basking on it, or that one would be seen crossing ahead. Once again, the rocky areas that were anticipated were not present. Since I'd never been here before, this was certainly a mission of reconnaissance. We walked. We walked. And we walked. At this point, we encountered a dead end and were forced to turn back. On the way back, we stopped by this dried up stream bed to flip over some rocks. This area was missed on the way in since there was some dense foliage hiding it. This spot was not getting much sunlight. I didn't expect to find any snakes in this moist area, and of course, none were found. These rocks were way too big to flip over, and once again, I wasn't going to go through there without snake-proof chaps. This was the most promising potential place to search that was seen on Wolf Run Road. A final search was made in this wooded area as we were almost back to the truck to leave. A small rocky area was encountered that was hidden under some ferns and pine needles. A rock was flipped over and a snake was finally found, but it wasn't a timber rattlesnake. This snake is a northern ringneck. It's roughly 12 inches in length. They can get up to 2 feet long and live as long as 20 years in the wild. They are non-venomous. They actually constrict their prey, which includes salamanders, newts, small mice, insects, etc. Since my main camera fell in the water while filming the last video, bass fishing with the jitterbug, I was reduced to a backup camera and couldn't zoom in any closer. Notice the yellow band around its neck, which explains its name. It wasn't what we hoped for, but after a long day, it was a big relief just to finally find a snake of any species. A stop was made at the administration building, which overlooks Red House Lake. It houses a gift shop, restaurant, information center, the park police headquarters, and a display room with some impressive taxidermy. Most of the species on display are indigenous to the area. We went in to take a look. One thing that caught my eye in the display room was this timber rattlesnake skin. It's at least 4 feet long. At this length, it was definitely a male. I was hoping that it came from within the park many years ago before they were protected. Upon further review, it was donated from a resident of Emporium, Pennsylvania, which is located an hour south of here. A popular misconception is that a rattlesnake's age can be determined by the number of rattles on its tail as indicated in the display. Since they tend to eventually break off, that belief is inaccurate. This is Bridal Falls. It's located in the Red House area just off of Allegany State Park, Road number 1. It spills directly into Stoddard Creek. There hasn't been much rain this summer, and it has been reduced to a mere trickle. This is probably more awesome to see in the early spring or in the fall when there is more rainwater to feed it. I used to think that the state park was just a place to go fishing, camping, or to have a family gathering and picnic. As a middle-aged man, I'm just starting to realize that this place has so much more to offer. A final stop was made on the way out of the park. This is the Stone Tower. It was built in 1926 by the Civilian Conservation Corps under Franklin D. Roosevelt's New Deal. The craftsmanship in the stone masonry construction is downright impressive to look at. It was built as an observation point. Red House Lake and the administration building can be seen in the distance when looking due south from the top of this structure. My nephew, Hurricane Cyrus, can be seen looking over the top.
This video is actually the third video in what has become a mini-series that documents a personal quest to photograph a live timber rattlesnake in the wild near the western New York and Pennsylvania state borderline. After searching a few notable areas of the park that were fairly easy to access, no rattlesnakes were found, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there aren't any here. The park is a very big place with lots of isolated areas where there is very little or no human activity. Although another failure, the search has certainly gotten a little warmer. The search will likely be resumed on the other side of the state line near the Kinzu Dam. This is an area where rattlesnakes are more commonly found. The video will close with some additional photographs of the park. I'm Marc Tex Wilson. Thanks for watching.